the listeners, especially the ones just getting in, because you mentioned that it's very common that maybe it was more common, obviously 20 years ago, where you'd kind of do this bro, quote unquote, bro split where you're hitting every body part once per week. Why, for the listeners, why is it going to be potentially more beneficial for muscle growth to hit things more frequently in a 7-day cycle? And does it have to necessarily be a 7-day cycle, because that is somewhat arbitrary, right? Or is that just the research that's been done within that cycle?
Yeah, good questions. I guess it's just like really, I think ultimately we're looking at, I don't know if there's any research saying a certain number of times per week is better for hypertrophy. Some people might correct me on that. I'm not sure if that's been shown, but I think the idea was just, you're hitting the muscle more frequently, so you're stimulating muscle protein synthesis more frequently. Maybe you'll get a little bit more growth. Whatever the reason is, I did find that by doing a higher frequency thing, basically, in other words, 2 or more times per week per muscle group versus 1 time per week per muscle group, I did find that I experienced a little bit more growth, but I didn't experience a massive amount more growth. No doubt there was probably some other variables that had changed during that time. Maybe I was eating more, I was eating more protein, or because in the initial years, I wasn't really like competitive bodybuilding. I was just going to the gym and lifting. Some of those years I was still a teenager. I didn't know about nutrition. I might have just been eating, a peanut butter sandwich for lunch or something like that, and eating whatever mum cooked for dinner. So yeah, it's always hard to tease out like, what caused what. But I found in general that, training 2 or more times per week did maybe give like 10 or 20% more growth. So, overall, still, if you wanted to train muscle groups 1 time per week, I think that's still fine. Like, it's not optimal, I don't think, but you're still going to get like a reasonable amount of growth out of it. If you prefer training that way, that's fine. Especially if you're just like not necessarily a competitor, you can still get pretty good results. And I have at times even gone back to that training as for a mesocycle, and I didn't lose muscle doing it. Yeah. Did that answer all the questions?
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because I guess it's going to be very individual specific to some. Well, and I say this because from a personal experience as well, where if I'm doing too many exercise within a given workout for a specific body part directly, let's just say, by a certain point, it's kind of like I'm tapped out. Whereas maybe some people can handle more within a given workout, and that might cover their weekly amount required for growth. You know what I mean? Like that might, and I'm not sure what that is, because everybody's going to be different, but and maybe where I might only get half of what's required to maybe potentially stimulate growth within a given workout, someone else hit it all and actually was able to progress with it all. You kind of see where I'm going with this?
Yeah, I get what you mean. And I think, that's, I think, why I did have a lot of success with volume training in the past, because I seemed to be able to handle a lot. Because maybe partly was I just didn't know any better. It was just like, I used to watch videos of like Jay Cutler, who's like obviously, Mr. Olympia or whatever, or becoming Mr. Olympia at the time. And I was just like, okay, he's doing 8 exercises for back. I'm doing like 4 exercises for back when I train back and it's a back day. Maybe I should do 6. And I just tried. Eventually I can say, okay, so I'll do 5 exercises per day. And then eventually I was doing 6. Eventually I got up to the same volume that Jay Cutler was training with in all of his DVDs. And I was doing 8 exercises for back, for 3 or 4 sets for everything. And I mean, at least for some things, and I mean, I'm not trying to advocate people should go out and do that, but I certainly at the time was able to handle it. These days, I wouldn't be able to handle it, I don't think, because my quality of movement's changed, my proximity to failure has changed. And if you watched Jay, he actually a lot of the time didn't really train to failure either. So yeah, but I think the thing is that a lot of people hold themselves back with looking at only the science-based recommendations, and they go, okay, well, the most we can handle is like 8 sets per muscle group per week or something like that, right? And it's like, well, no, like you can do more because there's a lot of other variables to play with. You can just do more volume and train less close to failure, or but if you are training with higher intensity in terms of relative not frequency, but like relative intensity, then you're going to be able to do a little bit less. And you've got to just pay close attention to that, I think. Don't just do, the minimum. Sometimes push it a little bit.